Spanish officers complained privately that qualified Spanish navigators should have received command of such an important expedition rather than a Portuguese exile with questionable loyalty. The crew interpreted Magellan's appointment as evidence that their king valued foreign expertise over Spanish competence and patriotism. Charles I ruled not only Spain but also the Holy Roman Empire, creating complex political pressures that influenced his decision to support Magellan's western expedition despite the obvious risks of employing a Portuguese defector. The young monarch needed to demonstrate Spanish strength and independence from Portuguese dominance in global exploration, while simultaneously managing the competing demands of his European territories. Charles I recognized that successful Western routes to Asian markets could provide Spain with economic advantages that would strengthen his position in European politics and reduce Spanish dependence on Portuguese-controlled trade networks. His support for Magellan represented a calculated gamble that Western exploration could transform Spain into a global maritime power capable of competing with Portugal's Eastern Empire. Analysis of crew manifests completed in 2025 reveals the remarkable diversity of expedition members who joined Magellan's voyage from ports across Europe and North Africa. The 270 men included Spaniards, Portuguese, Italians, Greeks, Germans, French sailors, and even North Africans who brought different languages, customs, and loyalties aboard the 5 ships. This multinational composition created communication barriers and cultural conflicts that complicated Magellan's efforts to maintain discipline and unity among his crews. The diversity meant that officers needed to give orders in multiple languages while managing competing national interests and personal motivations that varied dramatically between different groups of sailors. Captain Juan de Cartagena emerged as the leader of Spanish opposition to Magellan's authority, using his position as Inspector General appointed by Charles I to question the Portuguese commander's decisions and undermine crew confidence in their leader. Cartagena argued that Spanish interests should take precedence over Magellan's personal ambitions, and that Spanish officers deserved greater influence over expedition planning and execution. His opposition would later manifest in documented plotting during their stop at Tenerife in the Canary Islands, where Spanish resistance to Portuguese leadership began organizing into more serious challenges to Magellan's command authority. Letters discovered in Spanish archives and analyzed using 2025 digital restoration techniques reveal the depth of anti-Portuguese sentiment that infected the expedition from its earliest planning stages. Spanish nobles wrote to Charles I expressing concerns about entrusting Spanish lives and resources to a Portuguese exile whose motivations remained suspect despite his promises of loyalty to the Spanish crown. The correspondence shows that influential Spanish courtiers had opposed Magellan's appointment and predicted that his foreign origins would create discipline problems that could destroy the expedition's chances of success. These letters demonstrate that Spanish opposition to Portuguese leadership extended far beyond the sailors who would actually participate in the voyage. Portuguese King Manuel I responded to Magellan's defection by dispatching 2 caravels with orders to intercept the Spanish expedition and prevent his former subject from revealing Portuguese navigation secrets to Spain. These pursuit vessels added external pressure that complicated Magellan's internal problems with crew loyalty and increased the stakes for everyone. Aboard the Spanish expedition, Portuguese agents operating in Spanish ports gathered intelligence about the expedition's departure schedule and planned routes, creating security concerns that forced Magellan to implement additional secrecy measures. The threat of Portuguese interception meant that crew members faced potential capture and imprisonment if Portuguese forces succeeded in stopping the expedition before it could escape European waters. Research conducted in 2025 has revealed the diverse economic motivations that drove individual crew members to join Magellan's expedition despite the obvious risks and uncertain prospects for success. Analysis of financial records shows that some sailors joined because they faced debts or legal problems that made leaving Europe attractive, regardless of the expedition's ultimate destination. Other crew members were motivated by promises of shares in any profits generated by discovering new trade routes or territories that could be claimed for Spanish exploitation. The research demonstrates that crew loyalty depended largely on whether individual sailors believed the expedition would improve their personal financial situations, rather than abstract concepts of national service or exploration for scientific purposes. These internal divisions created by national tensions, economic pressures, and competing loyalties threatened to destroy Magellan's expedition before the ships could even reach the open Atlantic. The combination of Spanish resentment toward Portuguese leadership, crew diversity that complicated communication and discipline, and external threats from Portuguese pursuit vessels established conditions where serious challenges to command seemed inevitable. As the expedition prepared for departure, Magellan faced the daunting task of maintaining authority over men who questioned his loyalty while managing political pressures that could turn crew members against each other. The success of his mission would depend on whether he could hold this fractured fleet together long enough to prove that western routes to Asia were possible.